Good afternoon, everybody. We appreciate your patience on such a solemn occasion. I'm Detective Dave Snelling at the Arvada Police Department, Public Information. That's Snelling. Does everybody have good sound? Okay. This afternoon we're going to have Chief Link Straight come up and give a brief conversation about what occurred. He will give limited details as this is still an active and ongoing investigation. So if we could please respect that fact and the quality of investigations can be completed. Sheriff Jeff Schrader of the Sheriff's Office in Jefferson County will come up and talk about the process as it relates to the Critical Incident Response Team and their investigative processes. We will take limited questions with Chief Straight and then no questions with Sheriff Schrader. And then we'll have some brief details to follow about visuals and more events to come. So right now I'd like to introduce Chief Link Straight.
Thank you all for being here. I'd first like to thank our community for the outpouring of support. Thank you to our local, state, and federal partners who have responded and stood by our side through this tragedy. The men and women of the Arvada Police Department have worked around the clock, and detectives continue to work to determine what happened. The investigation is ongoing, and we are not at a point to release additional details. Our Good Samaritan is John Hurley, 40 years old, from Golden, Colorado. And he is a true hero who likely disrupted what could have been a larger loss of life. Through our investigation, we have not made any prior connection between our Good Samaritan and our suspect. The suspect's identity will be released through the Jefferson County Coroner's Office. The death of Officer Gordon Beesley was a tragic loss to this community and this department. But most importantly, it is an inconceivable loss to his family. Gordon began his career with the Arvada Police Department in September of 2002. As an Arvada police officer, he worked patrol as a field training officer, a motorcycle officer, and a school resource officer. He worked in numerous schools in Arvada since 2012. Most recently, Gordon worked at Oberon Middle School. During the summer months, our SROs worked patrol, and Gordon volunteered to work in the Old Town Arvada area. Gordon was a true gentleman and a kind soul. He always had a smile on his face, and everyone felt better after having had a conversation with Gordon. While we yet don't have all the facts, I can tell you that Gordon was targeted because he was wearing an Arvada police uniform and a badge. Officer Beesley was ambushed by a person who expressed hatred of police officers. This ambush occurred in Old Town Arvada, where we have other officers stationed. Communities need to understand and know what they ask of their police officers, the sacrifices that they make, the cost to them for your safety. While this was a deliberate act of violence, we still believe this is an isolated incident and our community is safe. We are hurt and troubled, but most importantly, we are committed to the protection of this community, our community, that we all love, and to honor Officer Gordon Beesley and Mr. Hurley. I'd like to now introduce Jefferson County Sheriff Jeff Schrader.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Schrader. I'm the Jefferson County Sheriff, S-H-R-A-D-E-R. First of all, I'd like to express my condolences on behalf of all of the Jefferson County law enforcement agencies to the Beesley and Hurley families. and to the very dedicated men and women of the Arvada Police Department on this tragic loss. There are two investigations that are going on. There's the criminal investigation that is being led by the Arvada Police Department, and they are getting support from state and federal law enforcement partners in completing that criminal investigation into the actions that killed Officer Beesley. The other investigation that goes on is a critical incident response team investigation that is made up of a variety of law enforcement officers, deputy sheriffs, investigators, police agents from throughout Jefferson County, wherein a recommendation will be made to the Jefferson County District Attorney Alexis King, and she will ultimately make the determination as to whether there was appropriate or inappropriate conduct on the part of any officers. It's important to distinguish that there are two separate investigations that go on in this case. It's important to the Beesleys, it's important to the Hurleys to ensure that we have integrity in these investigations and that we comply with state law. In this particular investigation, there has been a myriad of crime scene information that has been gathered, physical evidence, electronic evidence, as well as statements that still have to be taken from witnesses. And so it would be preliminary at this point to issue any statement as to the status of that investigation. And when it can, that finding will be issued from the district attorney's office. Again, our condolences to the Beesley and Hurley families, and I thank you all for being here.
Some closing details that we have tonight. There will be a vigil at 57th and Field Street in the city of Arvada at Peace Lutheran Church. That vigil will be at 7 p.m. That will also be aired on our local cable channel KATV at arvada.org/live stream for anybody that would like to view that can't make it. Funeral arrangements for Officer Beesley are being finalized and being taken care of through the Fallen Heroes organization, who we'd like to again thank for their support and their help. Donations for Officer Beesley's family can go to the Colorado Fallen Heroes Fund at www.coloradofallenhero.org. We will be opening an emergency assistance center for community counseling tomorrow at the Shrine of St. Anne's at 7320 Grant Place in Old Town Arvada. This will be going from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the gym, again at the St. Anne's Church. And this will be counseling for any community members, particularly those who are deeply affected in the Old Town area, which we know need extreme support right now. We don't have any donation information for Mr. Hurley's family, but as soon as we get that, we will share that, and we will support his family as we move forward. Please follow us on Twitter for when we will be able to provide a next update. If we have a couple of questions that don't relate to the investigation, part of the details for the CERT team.
How do you spell Hurley?
Hurley.
Can you go into greater detail why you described Mr. Hurley as a hero and his actions there?
Again, that he came into the Old Town area in the middle of a shooting and prevented any further injury.
We only have one more question after this.
What's the timeline of when the calls came in and maybe anything that you can tell us about what happened?
Right, that's in the press release that we sent out. So at 1:15 we received a call, a little after 1 we received a call of a disturbance in Old Town Square. At approximately 1:30 we received a call of shots fired. At that same time we also had calls of an officer down. At that time it progressed from there into what we now know today, and that investigation is still ongoing. I'd like to thank everybody for your time. Thank you for coming out and your support, and we appreciate your understanding. Thank you.